Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. Thank you everyone that asked questions on my Flash and Arrow stuff this week. I'm also going to include Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow stuff too, just because they dropped their trailer, so there's a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. I'm going to start with the schedule, like when all these shows are going to premiere. Just going in order, Flash and Arrow are going to premiere first. They'll be like the same week they premiered last year, that first week in October. That could get bumped by a week or two, but generally it's going to be the exact same time they premiered last year. Supergirl isn't premiering till November on CBS. Remember, that's a different network. The reason it's not starting till November is because of Thursday Night Football. I know that sounds weird. They have another show that's in Supergirl's time slot that's going to run for about 8 weeks. Once Thursday Night Football is over, that show that's in Supergirl's place is moving to Thursdays and Supergirl will start. Week 8 of the NFL games is like the last weekend in October, so Supergirl will probably premiere the first week in November. That's November 2nd. Legends of Tomorrow isn't going to start till January when Arrow and Flash come back, but all 3 of those shows on the CW will run at the same time. What's probably going to happen is they'll put it on a different night, so it'll be like Flash, then Arrow, then Legends of Tomorrow. Think about the crossovers that happened this year between Arrow and the Flash. So you have something happen on the Flash and then they'd address it on Arrow. So what'll probably happen is, or at least what I'm hoping they do, is that something bad happens on the Flash, it carries over to Arrow, and then the Super Friends fix it on Legends of Tomorrow on the last night. All of the shows will cross over to a certain degree. Barry and Oliver will go on Legends of Tomorrow. I don't know which Legends of Tomorrow characters will go on Arrow and the Flash though. They're shooting Legends of Tomorrow this summer. I'm hoping that they have some more footage to show off at Comic-Con, so we'll see. They did announce that they would be doing like a big Flaro type crossover like they did last year between Arrow and the Flash, where they share a villain. They did all kinds of crossovers this season, but usually it's like a very self-contained small story. The Flash vs. Arrow Captain Boomerang story was way bigger, so they're going to do like one of those each year. Just like last year, it's going to be episode 8 of both shows. Because Legends of Tomorrow doesn't start till January, I don't think that Flash vs. Arrow story will have anything to do with Legends of Tomorrow. But they will set up the plot of Legends of Tomorrow by the mid-season finale of both The Flash and Arrow. Both the shows will set up what's happening in the spin-off show. So even if there's like one show that you like way more than the other, like if you're a bigger fan of The Flash than you are of Arrow, I recommend that you watch both shows for context. It's like if you're reading DC's big Convergence storyline right now. They have the main comic, but then they also have like the satellite tie-in titles. No surprise that a bunch of comic book TV shows would start to work like big comic book events. And everybody's still wondering who the Jay Jackson character is on Legend of Tomorrow. He wasn't in the trailer. Right now I'm thinking Black Lightning or Static Shock. In the bio for the character, it said he was a star athlete and a bit of a wisecracker. Because they didn't call the show Justice Society or Justice League, it makes me think that they're doing characters that aren't appearing in the movies. Like they're trying to avoid movie stuff in general, so I don't think that he's playing Cyborg. Looking at the general makeup of the team, it looks like they picked characters that had relatively different looking powers, so I don't think there's going to be 2 speedsters on the team. Barry Allen's going to be part of the show, so I don't think that Jay Jackson is Wally West. They just started teasing Coast City, and if they ever did do Green Lantern, I think they go with Silver Age Green Lantern first, just like they did with Barry Allen. They go with Hal Jordan. So I don't think he's Simon Baz. There are rumors that they might do Jay Garrick, Flash of Two Worlds situation. They're jumping all over time and space, so that could be the end for multiverse. You could look at the alliteration as like a Wally West Easter egg, like JJ to WW, but I think if they ever did do Wally West, he would be called Wally West. As much as the TV shows change stuff about the comics, they're still very true to the name. Like Laurel Lance is the Canary. In the comics, it's a little bit different. It's Dinah Laurel Lance. It's the same thing with Thea being Speedy, being the Mia Dearden character. She's Thea Dearden Queen. So Jay Jackson is probably not Wally West, unless he has 4 names and they just omitted the Wally West part. On to questions. So here we go. Griffin Blaze asks, they mentioned Ferris Air too many times for it to just be a nod and a wink. And now they mentioned a test pilot going missing. I think it's possibly leaving a door open. Yeah, movie stuff, TV stuff, very nebulous, but I do think if they ever did Green Lantern, it would be Hal Jordan. Stephen Amell did confirm that they are rolling heavy on Coast City in season 4 of Arrow. So the Hal Jordan universe, like that, that area in the comics, is becoming a bigger and bigger thing. It's going to be like a Candyman situation. Someone will mention his name 5 times in the same episode, and poof, he'll just appear. Barring that though, don't hold your breath for Green Lantern on TV anytime soon. Just a whole lot more Green Lantern related stuff. Next question, On Chic asks, will Flashpoint happen within 1 episode or over the course of a season? Will they introduce Wally West? And will Captain Boomerang collude with Deathstroke? I mean, I definitely think that Captain Boomerang will come back at a certain point, but they're not doing as much Suicide Squad stuff in next season because of the movie. The backdoor to Wally West, I know just because it's confusing because Joe West doesn't have a son, is Flashpoint. Barry Allen goes back in time, and then that changes the character dynamics for season 2 of The Flash. I kind of think that's the direction they're going. Tom Cavanaugh was at the CW upfronts. He appears in the trailer for Legends of Tomorrow, so that's a pretty good sign that he's going to be in season 2 of The Flash, and they can't do that unless they dramatically change the character. If you've ever watched American Horror Story, I think it's going to be kind of like that. You know, same cast every year, same group of people, but the characters are a little bit different. So like Tom Cavanaugh next year might be playing the true version of Harrison Wells. Like Barry might end up saving him somehow. Flashpoint in the comics was kind of like a Darkest Timeline situation. I don't know how dark they're going to go in The Flash, but I do think all the characters will shift based on like big changes made in the timeline. And that could set the stage for Wally West to appear somehow. Next question, Peter asks, where was Heatwave in this episode? Was Dominic Purcell filming Legends of Tomorrow stuff? Well, I don't know about that, but usually when actors don't appear in an episode, it's either because there wasn't room for them in the narrative or they weren't available. Usually it's the second reason. It's like they just weren't available. As much fun as it is having Dominic Purcell with Wentworth Miller on screen, I do think it gave them more room to develop Captain Cold's character because he's very different from Heatwave. Heatwave would never make a bargain with the Flash the way Captain Cold would, even though Captain Cold totally double-crossed them. Next question, Monkey Warrior asks, is it possible that they were driving to Coast City in the end? You're talking about Arrow. The background kind of looked like the one when the Flash got pizza. Yeah, they're definitely going to Coast City. Like I said, Stephen Amell confirmed Coast City going to be a big thing in season 4. That could be both flashbacks and present day. If you remember what Oliver said in the episode, they're like, hey, where are you going? And he said, hopefully somewhere far away from here. Coast City is like on the opposite side of the United States. So that would literally be far, far away. What I think is going to happen is they'll do like a version of Longbow Hunters when the season picks up. Oliver and Felicity will be in Coast City. I mean, in Longbow Hunters, it was Seattle. They'll swap those cities. They'll have like their own mini arc there before they come back to Starling City. I do think at some point in season 4, Oliver will become the Green Arrow. He can't be the Arrow anymore. Like Stephen Amell in interviews has said, Arrow is done. Like the name Arrow isn't coming back. But for most of season 4, he'll probably just be Oliver Queen solving problems until eventually he takes the name Green Arrow. Whenever they're planning TV shows, typically, the goal is to hit 5 seasons or 100 episodes for syndication purposes. They make way more money when that happens. So I think that logically they wanted Oliver to become Green Arrow going into season 5 because they thought that might be the last season. That doesn't mean the Arrow will stop after season 5. They'll keep going as long as Stephen Amell wants to keep going, but I don't think they're going to do like Supernatural and go to like 10 years. Just like Smallville was always going to put Clark in the costume during the last season, whatever that ended up being. I mean, obviously it ended up being season 10. I think Arrow is doing the same thing, where it's like, whatever the planned endpoint was, he's going to be Green Arrow. But I do think depending on how Stephen Amell's film career takes off, they'll continue to do Arrow for like 6, maybe 7 seasons. 7 seasons is kind of the magic number for cable and smaller shows. Next question, Hawk in the Sky asks, what about Diggle's costume? Yeah, there's so much talk about Diggle's costume. Supposedly he's going to have like a face covering next season. I don't know if you want to call that a costume or not, just wearing a mask. There's a lot of rumors that he might end up becoming the Guardian character, like that might be the name he uses. He wouldn't use the name Vigilante, like that wouldn't sit very well with Oliver. Like I've said, I don't think that Green Lantern is going to become a big thing in the Arrow universe yet, so I don't think he's going to be Simon Baz either, even though Simon Baz does wear like a big face covering. Odds are he won't have a name, he'll just be Diggle with a mask. Next question, Usama asks, in the trailer when the time machine is shown, it shows Harrison Wells when you pause. You can see him sitting in the time chair. Does this mean that he'll be in the new Legends of Tomorrow series? Yes, we even see the Reverse Flash too. The time chair itself actually looks like something from H.G. Wells, as in the Time Traveler. When the Flash first started and we found out that he was playing Harrison Wells, a lot of people took that as an H.G. Wells reference, as in he was a time traveler. Turns out he's just Eobard Thawne. But since he's wearing the Reverse Flash suit, I do believe this is Eobard Thawne in this chair. Eobard Thawne is a time traveler, so it only makes sense that if the characters travel all over time, they'd run into him somehow. What they might do, this is kind of a long shot, just a theory, that they might retcon his backstory a little bit and make Eobard Thawne part of the Time Masters organization if he's from the 25th century. That's not the case in the comics, but That time chair that he's sitting in might belong to the Time Masters. Next question, Ingrid says, I just love how Sarah raises up from the pit with full makeup on. About the show, I don't know how it will work with a 24 episode run, if only it was a miniseries or had a limited run. So yeah, so what's happening is it's 13 episodes, it's going to be highly serialized, so think of it as a 13-hour movie broken into 1-hour episodes. That's the way they planned it, that's the way they're shooting it, to be much more cinematic. So it works a lot more like a Netflix series. Thank you so much everyone for submitting questions, these are always a ton of fun to do. I'll have to figure out how I'm going to do Q&As with so many DC shows on, but it shouldn't be too bad, at least in the fall. There is one more Flash trailer, so I might do a video for that next. Be sure to subscribe to get it. I actually just realized I forgot to include a bunch of Supergirl stuff in this. So yeah, everyone was making the joke that the Supergirl trailer, like the 6 minutes of footage, felt a lot like that Black Widow SNL parody. Just remember that shows end up looking very different from what they do in trailers, and the people that make the shows don't cut those trailers. That's a marketing department. Really, the people they made that trailer for are people that watch a lot of CBS TV shows but have no idea who Supergirl is. The way they're describing the character that kind of gives some insight into the tone is that she's a quirky, eccentric, intelligent girl on a journey of self-discovery, figuring out how to be a woman with superpowers. Yes, the show is loosely part of the Flaro or Arrow universe, however you want to think about it, but CBS has said that they don't want to do like a big Flaro type crossover in season 1. So most of what you see will be self-contained, but in the future it will probably cross over with Arrow and the Flash in some way. Maybe not as big a crossover as Arrow and the Flash, but if they ever did do something, it would be like a big cinematic event. They actually screened the Arrow versus Flash crossover in theaters briefly. Just in terms of the actual episodes, think about what episode 1 of The Flash looked like and what it looks like now. Like the show has changed quite a bit over 23 episodes. Usually season 1 of every show, like really any show in general, is when the writers are figuring the characters out. But I did see some of you thought that this might be a movie trailer. No, this is a TV series. And even if they do reference Superman or we even see him on screen in some fashion, it's not going to be Henry Cavill. It'll be like the TV version of that. They're not going to cross over with the movies. That's why it's not like super dark, depressing, and gritty. So in case you guys haven't seen it, you can click here for the Legends of Tomorrow trailer. You can watch like 10 or 15 more times. And you can click here to catch up on The Flash before the finale next week. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.